Hey, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. This is Talking to Myself, the part of the day where I just sit down and talk to myself about things that I thought about the day before while I was laying in bed, or maybe sometime this morning while I was getting up. Shout out and thank you to all 320 subscribers, I believe, at the time of making this video. I truly appreciate it. Thank you so much for doing that. I even appreciate it more because I don't think I've ever said, would you consider subscribing, or go ahead and drop a like or whatever, just because, that's awkward. And I don't think I'll ever bring myself to do that. So I really appreciate it. Listen, shout out to everyone who gets upset about my Leica videos and leaves a long ass 4-page essay. I don't really care what you think and what you think about what I said. Too long, didn't read, not gonna read. Let me break it down for you. If you're upset that I have said in the past that you can't compare Leica to Fujifilm, number one, you don't know shit about the history of the cameras Leica and Fujifilm. And you don't know about what they have in them today, and you are just trying to compare them to feel justified in a purchase. Number two, once again, I'm comparing digital against digital. I don't really care about the Leica film cameras. Those actually keep their value. Consider the fact that the Leica M9 came out at $8,000, and then immediately once the M10 was out, a new unopened box would be about $3,000. So that means everyone who didn't buy a Leica M9 used actually lost at least $5,000 of value on their purchase. That's really great and awesome that Leica keeps its value, right? I mean, for the same reason, if you were to brag about buying a Leica and getting it for X amount of dollars, no offense to the guy who did buy the Leica and got it for cheap, but I'm just saying I bought an X Pro 1 for $400 in 2018 and an XE3 for like $350, $300, somewhere around there, I think, after tax, in 2018. Had both of those cameras. I sold the X Pro 1 for almost $600, and I sold the XE3 for almost $500. So that should tell you a lot about how, honestly, on eBay, you can always hit luck. And on Facebook Marketplace, getting that XE3 for $350 was like literally a godsend. So I mean, like, the used market has no ploy and has no determination on how much value something keeps. Let's be honest. To go from $8,000 to immediately at the new release something dropped down to only $3,000 shows you how outdated and how pretty shitty the technology is. Not that it's not an innovation, but I mean, let's just be honest. Leica bodies, the M bodies, the digital M bodies, they aren't worth that much money. I mean, look at the M8. The M8 had such issues. Leica had to send out free UV filters because UV light ruined the sensor. So if you bought that camera, you didn't get a UV sensor within 3 to 6 months, or UV filter within 3 to 6 months, basically you were 99% likely to have your image start to deteriorate because you had a jank sensor. And that's no one's fault but Leica's. Like, let's just be honest with it. That camera wasn't worth the $6,000 it was for whenever it came out. And the reason why they're holding value is because people still associate the M digital bodies with the quality and build of the mechanical film bodies. But at the same time, having electronics in something is way different than having mechanical. That mechanical can be fixed and can be worked around and can be corrected, by people all over the world. That digital body has to go into someone special, and if the sensor goes out or if something goes out, you have to take that whole thing apart, and imagine the upkeep to keep that going. So no, Leica bodies aren't worth it. I don't care if you shoot Fujifilm and Leica. I literally never asked what you shot. I've literally made videos saying I don't give a damn what you shoot. So just get over yourself, because I don't care what your justification is. I think Leicas are overpriced. My original videos were stating that reviewers who were comparing Leica to Fujifilm were disingenuous, because to compare the two is really, that's an off-putting comparison. Not the same sensor size. You don't have the same megapixel count. Don't have the same focusing systems. They're about $4,000 to $6,000 apart in price range, and those are the things they gloss over. They gloss over the fact that one's APS-C and one's full frame. They gloss over the fact that one's $8,000 for body only, and one you can get with basically a kit lens for maybe $2,500, and it's under $2,000 just body only. They gloss over the fact that one has autofocus and one has an actual manual focus system because you want to use legacy glass. And I'm not against using legacy glass, but at the same time, the more correct comparison would be the Leica CL, which has video, which the M bodies don't, which has an APS-C sensor, which the M-bodies don't, which has a similar megapixel count, which the M-bodies don't, which has an EVF, which the M-bodies don't, and which has, autofocus, which the M-bodies don't, and which has more than 5 frames per second shooting speed, which the M-bodies don't. So if you're mad I'm calling a spade, get over yourself, but don't leave the long comments. I'm not going to read it. It honestly just makes me laugh. The video's been up for how long, and you guys see it, and the first thing you tell me is I've owned both, or I do this, and I don't have to justify it. I wasn't saying you. I'm saying people that review it. Why else would you gloss over that $8,000 difference? And why else would you gloss over the fact that once the M11 comes out, that M10 is going to lose about $5,000 at least in value? That's hilarious, but it is going to be like how Fujifilm, I swear, Fujifilm resellers are the worst. Someone will buy an XH1 and you bought it for $700 whenever everyone flooded the market with them because they didn't think it was a good camera, that everyone bought them back and now you can't find one. And now you want to be $1,200 lightly used. Bro, what the hell? Fujifilm resellers are the worst, dude. I swear, we try to price gouge everything. I bought this, it doesn't even matter. It's like, everyone shits on 18mm f2 and now they want to put it up for $300, $400 online. It's ridiculous. Literally it's like a 4-year-old camera and everyone puts lightly used and then it's like only $100 less than what you got it brand new. And it's got like scuffs on it and shit. And it's got like a shutter count of 40,000. I don't know. I think it's really funny. Fujifilm resellers are like really, really, like Canon only gets that brave with L glass, literally. Like I can get a 5D Mark II for around $500, and like I like honestly getting an XH2 sometimes is like pulling teeth, and so it's just a trip to me, man. It's really is a trip to me with all that stuff. But the resale value on things. But yeah, listen, man, I'm just gonna say it again. I don't give a f about Leica, and I don't give a f if you shoot Leica, and I don't give a f if you got your feelings hurt. I don't. I said what I said and I meant it. Leica digital bodies, M-bodies are overpriced. Not the SL, not the C, or not anything else, whatever they have. But Leica M-bodies, the Q body, it's overpriced. And if you're going to not pay attention to the whole thing and start typing in the comments, just go for it. I mean, I just laugh at them and tell you that I'm not going to read it because it sounds like you're just going to bitch about Leica. So, shout out to all y'all. You don't have to follow me and you don't have to like my videos. It's that simple. If it offends you and it hurts your feelings, just don't watch my videos. Whenever people upset me or like I'm like, oh, I don't agree with that, I just don't watch their videos. It's super simple. I mean, you guys should really give it a try. It's amazing. I mean, there are times I have actually commented on Leica Fujifilm comparisons. Hey, why wouldn't you compare this to the CL if you reached out to Leica to give you a camera? And the only one who said, you know what, I am going to try that is Desi Chang. Thank you, Desi Chang. Desi Chang is the only one who said, okay, you know what, I will compare the Fujifilms to CL because that is a better comparison. Everyone else is like, well, these are flagships. The X Pro isn't necessarily the flagship. It's not. The X Pro is a niche camera for certain photographers. Let's just be honest. I mean, I think it's their most professional camera, but it is a niche camera for certain photographers. And if we're just being honest, that is what it is. Fujifilm sees their XT or their XH line as their flagship, if not their GFX. So you're not comparing flagships. Honestly, why is the M body their flagship? It's not. It's a niche camera. I'd be more aligned with being, okay, I understand that if you would just say, oh, they're the niche cameras. It's just the aesthetic. That's the only thing you can do about it. And stop saying that Leica created the rangefinder style body and camera. They didn't. Kodak did. That's a Kodak build. It's copied off a Kodak build. Leica and Canon, with the Canon P and the Canon whatever L. They both copied off of Kodak. So give credit where credit's due, man, and just stop. I understand you like your brand, but the more you fanboy and the more you have excess brand loyalty, like the more a brand is able to take from you. Like with all these Canon users not switching over to Sony, even though they say, oh, it's because I'm a professional, I want a professional camera like XYZ. If Canon makes you feel a certain way, stick with Canon. Fujifilm makes me feel a certain way, and I enjoy shooting with it. That's why I stick with Fujifilm. I know Fujifilm's autofocus is nowhere near Nikon, Canon, or Sony's. I know. Trust me. I know that with a APS-C sensor versus a full frame sensor, I have limitations. Now, I shoot around those limitations, and I don't allow myself to be put in situations where I have to look at those limitations in post, if that makes sense. I'm always making sure I've got correct lighting, or I bring lighting. I'm making sure that, I'm in situations where certain autofocus types aren't necessary. I know my gear and I use it correctly. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend like the Fujifilm X system is a better system than Sony that has better specs than Sony, Canon, or even Nikon. I'm not. And I think it'd be BS to do. And even for, everything else, for video and stuff, I'm not going to act like it's pushing Panasonic as a run for its money. It's not. And that's fine. That is definitely fine. There is market share for Fujifilm. Fujifilm is the third highest rating distributor of cameras right now, right behind Sony and Canon. And it's Sony, big gap, then Canon, then right behind is Fujifilm. And that gap is lessening more and more because more and more people are jumping into not only medium format, but they're jumping in with APS-C with Fujifilm because they're able to afford it more. So their market share is getting bigger. That's why I jump with Fujifilm. I like the weight, I like the pricing, and you know what? I've already worked with Canon, I've already worked with Sony full frame and stuff. I've already worked with Canon cinema cameras. I had the pleasure of working with C300s and all the L glass you could believe for 6 years. And so that stuff just doesn't impress me, and I've realized that, the gear and stuff that you have doesn't really determine anything. And people say, oh, you're obsessed with gear. No, I just give a shit about a consumer. Obsessed with gear because I didn't buy a fucking $8,000 camera and I'm telling you it's overpriced. If that Leica body was $2,000, you better believe I would probably jump on that Leica body. Full frame M10, I'd probably get over it. If the Leica Q was $2,000, dude, you better believe I would have a Leica Q right now. Plain and simple. Full frame with I think it's a 28 millimeter effective focal length. That's my focal length. That's all I need. I love 28 millimeter, but it's not. It's overpriced. It is what it is. You just gotta get over it sometimes, you know what I'm saying? So, don't get in your feelings about it. I'm not in my feelings about it. People could say Fujifilm has limitations. I agree. Do I agree the APS-C and full frame have as big as limitations as people say it is? No. I just believe that when you're testing stuff and you're testing it in literally pitch black dark, of course, an APS-C sensor is going to have more grain. I believe that when you're cropping in versus a 24 megapixel camera or 26.1 megapixel camera versus a 40 or 50 megapixel camera, of course, the 24 megapixel camera is going to do worse. Try cropping in the EOS RP versus the R5 and tell me how well that does. It's like you guys don't put two and two together. I understand how math works and how these things work. I'm never pretending that Fujifilm is the greatest thing on earth because it's not. And the sooner we're honest about stuff, the sooner that these companies will not be allowed to hose us anymore. The more and more we keep Fujifilm accountable with the fact that I'm not excited about their focusing system in any of their lenses. Forget video. Forget autofocus. Why can't I rack manual focus and focus by wire lenses worth a shit? And why do you keep using the same focus technology? Fujifilm lenses are some of the worst lenses to manual focus because the throw is so long. Even whenever they have hard stops, the throw is so long. I don't like it. I feel like I'm having to do a turn and a move. I don't like that. With the majority of the lenses I've tried, I'm trying to think if there's any that I've tried that don't have that, but maybe the 16 to 55. I think that one was actually pretty pleasant for autofocus or manual focus, and maybe the 50 to 140. I can't even remember the 50 to 140 if I liked it that much. But you understand what I'm saying? Like, you have to hold these people accountable. There's no reason why I shouldn't have two UHS-2 cards in my cameras right now in 2021 or in 2020 whenever it came out. There's no reason why I should not have two UHS-2 card slots. For those of you who are big on IBIS, there was no reason why the XT3 shouldn't have had IBIS, considering that the XH1 was already underpowered compared to the XT3. Does that make sense? Like, think about that. They released the XH1 as supposed to be their flagship. And then it pans because they immediately released the XT3. And the XT3 does everything better in video and autofocus and in photos. Why wouldn't you just throw an IBIS sensor in there? It just, like things like this, like you have to keep people accountable because then they put on the XT4. So now when they make the XH2, they're going to have to at least be above the XH4 and they're going to have some special things. That's why I'm saying you have to throw in a mini XLR jack and some things if you still want that to be your flagship. And if you want it to be a rugged version of a camera, you have to make it at least the exact same as the XT4. And you're going to have to put something in there extra that makes people want to buy it. And it can't be the Paperwhite LCD or whatever screen there is on the top. It can't be that. You got to do something better. You have to make something impressive. That's why I think, putting a battery grip on the bottom of it, including that in it, that would be the way to go. It's super rugged, super durable, weather sealed like every other one of them, but it's super hefty in your hand. It's for people that are on the go. It's for people that are doing wildlife and things, because let me tell you right now, the XH2, if you put a battery grip on it, is still going to be lighter than my EOS R. And it's still going to be lighter than the EOS R with the grip. Same thing with the Sony A7 with a grip. So I'm just saying, keep manufacturers on their toes. Canon users, there's no reason why Canon should be fucking you over and over again with giving you all these specs and stuff they're going to release and things they're going to do for you, and then bricking and cripple hammering, shout out to Camera Conspiracies, cripple hammering all of your gear. There's no reason why you should have had to wait for a firmware update for 1080 120. There's no reason why you're paying that much money and they don't want to give you C-Log 3. Sony releases all their cameras with S-Log 3. The A7 III had S-Log 3. There is no reason why Canon should have done that. For a consumer, there is no reason why the Canon R5C should even be a thing. That is bull. I'd be pissed if I bought an R and then a R5 and then the R5C comes out. After all the money I spent, now there's one that's better. This was supposed to be my cinema camera. This is what you told me. This was my enthusiast cinema camera. Because they can do it. Because listen, I talked about it with someone in the comments before. House Season 6, I believe it was, that final episode was shot all on Canon 5D Mark IIs. Every single shot. Every single thing. Canon 5D Mark IIs. That's it. Look at all the low light and stuff. Canon, I'm telling you right now, that must have ingrained something, because that wasn't even 1080. They had to upscale that. That must have ingrained something in Canon's head somewhere for all eternity, that if people start using our cameras for this, we won't be able to rake them for that. Which is why they released the C70 and mentioned that, it's RF mount, but they only gave you a Super 35 sensor, which is fine. You guys have to remember, a Super 35 sensor is going to do just fine. Stop letting full frame versus everything else fuck with your mind. This is how they get you. Because now you're looking at the C70, but it's not full frame. Bro, what? If you are a videographer, I am sincerely baffled. If you shoot video, who doesn't have light? Who's not bringing ambient lighting and prosthetic lighting for their outside nighttime shots? Y'all are crazy. You're not going anywhere with that. You have to have some light. You have to bring an ambient light. You have to have prosthetic light. You have to have faux light. Plain and simple. Every shoot that I was on, I had to have a Kinoflow. I had to bounce it through a diffuser, a color diffuser, bounce it off glass with tape, with some gaffer's tape on it, to where it looked like a light coming through a window. I had to know how to do that. Don't let them rake you. That's what I'm saying. Sony's the best format. Sony is the best system. Their A7R still has majority of the video features you need. Their A7S III can still do decent enough for photos. And listen, the A7S III is completely geared towards videography. But it's not like they choked out and said, you can't shoot photos on this. Or, we're going to release an A7S III-C. That's even better. Didn't work like that. The A7C, meh. I can understand, I guess. Especially with street photography during COVID becoming such a big thing. And I think that's what drove it. I think the A7C was driven by how many people were shooting these small cameras and how big of a thing it was. That people were gravitating towards Leica, towards Fujifilm, towards Ricoh GRs and things like that. I honestly think the reason why they brought that and they brought those small cameras is for two things. It's for people who want to shoot street photography, and also for people just wanting to have like a small rig camera to put up on something and for vlogging. I honestly think that's what it was made for. That is a niche camera, but it's the same thing almost as the A7 III. It only has one SD card slot, but same thing almost the A7 III. And they still didn't brick it the way they could have. Their little small baby boy cinema camera, it still looks like a good enough camera. They don't brick things. They didn't brick the A7S III because they knew that little baby boy right there was coming out. The FX whatever, or the SX7 or whatever it is. They didn't brick A7S III for that. They didn't brick the A9 II because they knew the A1 was going to be released. Sony is at the top of the game for a reason. Sony is kicking everyone's ass for a reason. I'm telling you right now, like, you know, if there ever comes a day where Fujifilm, I feel like, is not giving me what I need to give, and the direction they're going in the lenses, they're not catching up to what I feel like I need, I am immediately just going to Sony. There's nothing else to it. I don't have brand loyalty. I've shot with Olympus, I've shot with Yashica, I've shot with Nikon, I've shot with Canon, I've shot with Sony APS-C, Sony full frame, Fujifilm, Canon RF bodies, and then back with Fujifilm. I don't have brand loyalty. I shoot with what gets the job done for me. Right now I'm more of an enthusiast, and I'm shooting whenever I have shoots with people. I shoot Fujifilm because I use this mostly for street photography and my at-home stuff, and I don't want to spend a shitload on lenses, and I don't want a heavy kit. So, you know, I personally am a believer, man, ditch the brand loyalty, because it only hurts you, the consumer, in the long run. That's all it hurts. It only hurts you because you defend and defend and defend and defend this stuff, and you have to stop defending it. There's no reason that the R5 should have been priced the way it is if you're going to have to buy the R5C to get everything the R5 bricked. There's no reason that the C70 should have been bricked the way it was. It should have had the limitations, not being able to output RAW and things like that, which the R5 can do, but it bricks and overheats. There's no reason why the R6, shout out to Camera Conspiracies again, shouldn't have the exact same color science as the R5. I'm not even a big fan of Canon color science, but that was pathetic. No reason. There's no reason why Olympus should have better color science than Canon for the price. Because Olympus does have the best color science out of any camera. It's the most natural, and it's very pleasing. I love Olympus cameras for that. Plus, their IBIS is the best ever. Sony has horrible IBIS. You know, you just pick and choose, you give and take. Nikon, hang in there. Pentax, you literally released another damn DSLR APS-C camera. You guys are really going all in on this. Pentax, you've got balls, brother. The Pentax CEO, I imagine, walked in and just said, I'm gonna let my nuts hang, and just said, release a DSLR. And they said, sir, a DSLR? Okay, full frame, how many? He goes, no. APS-C, bitches. That's how I think the conversation went. Shout outs to Pentax. Shout out Camera Conspiracies. Shout out Saratoga Peanut Butter. Oh no, man. Shout out Like a Fanboys. Thank you guys, because you get me so heated I'd be able to come down these tangents that I feel like are beneficial to my spirit being released and also for other people. Yeah, stop being brand loyalists. It hurts you, the consumer, in the long run. And the moment these companies... Shout out to Flossie Carter, man. He's the one that made me think about this. When you're loyal to brands, you don't hold them accountable, and they start doing shit like, oh, we're not going to put a charger in the box because it saves the environment. Okay, Apple. Now I've got to go buy a USB-C to Lightning charging brick that'll fast charge my iPhone, which means I'm going to throw away every other charging brick I have. So that's going to be more landfill. You're doing it for money. Every of these companies leaving out dongles and headphones and shit. You're doing it to save yourself money. So shout out to Flossie Carter for letting us know we got to keep these assholes, you know, it's all capitalism consumerism, man. We got to keep these assholes on their toes. They don't care about you, the consumer. You are just a paycheck for them. They will screw you over and fuck you over and over again, because they know one thing. I get my money at the end of the day. It don't work like that, man. It don't work like that. Anyway, that's it. That's all I got to say, man. I don't know if there's anything else going on today. This one looks like it's going around 30 minutes. I swear I talk more whenever I'm in front of the Fuji. But have a good one.